I'm well over 90 years old. Walking the streets of New York with my dog has become a part of my daily routine. One day, I heard news that awoke me from the peace of my daily life. I saw it right there on the big screen.
We now have breaking news.
North Korean defectors have entered South Korea. Many people gathered at the airport to welcome him. Everyone was there to welcome the North Korean defectors. The North Korean defectors felt a sense of peace in their hearts. Among the defectors, there was an old man who said that 75 years ago in 1950 during the Korean War, he had lost his entire family. He had returned to South Korea in hopes of finding the remains of his family which were still buried on the battlefield. As soon as the man was done speaking, questions began to pour out about the remains of his family. The old man was able to locate where he had lost his family, which was near the Nikdong River. Right away, everyone headed in the direction of the location of the old man's family remains. However, it was difficult to get there by car. No different from a battlefield, the area was in ruins. Unfortunately, 75 years after the death of his family, it was difficult to know exactly where his family's remains were. It was hard to forget this image of the old man, moving with heavy footsteps and a heavy heart. I haven't forgotten. The moments from the battle scene were not unfamiliar. Memories flashed before the old man's eyes. It was as if the figures of the past appeared before him. I was sent to the Korean War in 1950 as a record-keeping soldier in the U.S. South Korea Allied Forces, with a camera in hand, instead of a gun. I had to record war scenes full of horror and tragedy. If hell exists, then it must have been right there on the battlefield where I was. All of those memories that I wanted so badly to forget. It took me 75 years to muster the courage to face those memories again. Reuniting with my comrades like this, 75 years later. Tears flowed from my eyes. I spent decades trying so hard to forget. What was I so afraid of? The hell that was the battlefield felt endless. What was I trying to capture? At the time, there were so many things that I didn't know. Decades later, it's only now that I'm starting to see one by one, through the shaking lens of fear and death. There were pure eyes and shy smiles, who couldn't understand the reasons for war. Standing on the border between life and death were a great deal of youth. In order to convey the records of Korea from 75 years ago, I decided to go to Korea in a hurry. The unwitnessed scenes from that day. It was up to me to expose it. For the first time since the Korean War, one came back to Korea. I heard about Korea through various media. When I saw it with my own eyes, I was surprised beyond my imagination. The support for us North Korean defectors was promised from the South Korean government, and upon this promise I was able to let down the burden of my heart. I never even imagined that I'd ever come back here. It was like having a nightmare. It felt as if I was falling into darkness, an ominous energy surrounding me. There were unforgettable traces of that day. I could never forget despite the 75 years that had passed. Let me tell you about what happened that day. In August 1950, the UN forces were pushed back by the offense of the North Korean army. They were pushed back all the way to the defensive line of the Nakdong River. In preparation for a surprise attack by the North Korean army, the evacuees were being moved to safety with the support of the UN forces. But the happiness of a moment of peace can never be allowed on the battlefield. The sound of thousands of gunshots and shells were heard. The battlefield became stained with red blood and surrounded by flames. Only the cry of a newborn baby coming from somewhere shrouded the battlefield with silence. Barely holding on to their own lives, everyone was stunned at the bitter and mournful scene. It was as if time stopped completely. I can't express how haunting it was. Moment of silence. I wonder if in that moment of silence, we were all united. Afterwards, he became a prisoner of the North Korean army and was taken to North Korea, feeling guilty for failing to protect his family. The old man was forced to spend 75 years of his life in pain and longing. With the world watching closely, work has begun to uncover the remains. The unearthing of the remains was done with care and discretion. I visited the work site day after day. The old North Korean defector watched the work in silence. He had been waiting for a long time. I prayed that his moment of reunion would come soon. The final day of uncovering the remains drew a huge crowd of people. Perhaps it was for this moment that everyone came back to Korea. It was a moment of light after 75 years of darkness. Could this be the saddest reunion in the world? All I could do now was to hold the old man's trembling hands. It was decided that the remains were to be given to the old man, as he wished. The elderly North Korean defector's wish was fulfilled. No more did he have to live with the darkness of tragedy. Instead, he could go to a place of freedom and peace. For 75 years, he had lived with a pain that could not be washed away. But the war is far from over. And countless people are still suffering. I long for the day when all the people of the world will be united in freedom and equality.